Hi algebra students, this is our introduction video for our lesson on interpreting and using function notation. The first part of this is just a reminder of what we learned about function notation in yesterday's lesson. Function notation will look something like this. So keeping function notation in mind, the focus of today's lesson is going to be using function notation with situations where the input and the output are a little more complex. And to give you an idea of what I mean by that, we've got this situation here. The story we're going to be focusing on is a child's height in inches is a function of their age in months. Let function h represent this relationship. Now, if you've been in class, you know I've been trying to get you to remember when we have a story, before we do any answers, the first thing we want to do, identify your input and output. Go ahead, pause this video now, and write or label somewhere what the input and the output of the story would be. I've highlighted a key phrase here that can help us. We have those words is a function of, and we have learned whatever comes before those words always is going to represent your, not height, your output. So the height is the output here. And then whatever comes after those words is going to represent our input. And that's because here the child's height in inches is going to depend on their age in months. Also reading through this, we're noticing that the function name is h, so that means if we're using function notation, we'll see that letter. The first part of this is what do the following statements represent? We've got the first one is each of 9 equals 25. Once we've got our input and our output labeled, it makes it not too hard for us to do as long as we remember this. We know what's inside our parentheses will represent our input and what's outside is the output. And so here my 9 is in the parentheses. It is my input, so I know 9 represents their age. So I can say my child I know is going to be 9 months. That is their age. And then this other part here, that 25, that's our output. So that's going to be their height in inches. And so if I wanted to write a sentence to describe this, I could say the height of a 9-month-old child is 25 inches, or something similar to that. Why don't you go ahead, pause the video, and try that other one. Put h of 3 into words. So I went ahead and I labeled, we know that 3, again, it's in our parentheses, so it's our input, so it's 3 months. But here we do not know the output. I don't know what their height is. Because it's in function notation, because there's that h there, I still know we're talking about height. I just don't know what it is. So if I try to describe this, some people just write 3 months, where it's a 3-month-old child. That's not enough because that h tells me we're still talking about the height. So h of 3, I would describe that as the height of a 3-month-old child. I just don't have that last part. I don't know what the height is, so I can't write a full sentence. I can't say is 20 inches or is 15 inches. This is similar to what we had done yesterday, where we want to be able to look at function notation and understand what it means. This other part is doing the opposite. So, for example, how could we represent the sentence, a 2-year-old child is 33 inches tall in function notation? Now, don't write this. I've done this before in the past, and sometimes students want to say our function name is h, so I write an h here. Inside my parentheses is always my input. We said input is age. My child is 2 years old, so I write 2. And then my output is the height, and height is 33. So we have h of 2 equals 33. If you were thinking that too, you were close, But there is one part that is not correct. There's one part we need to change. And it has to do with what we said today's all about, which is looking at more complex inputs and outputs. Do you see which part I need to change? If we really focus on what the input is, the input we said is their age in months. But here, I was not told their age in months. I was told it was a 2-year-old child. If you write h of 2, this means the height of a 2-month-old child, not a 2-year-old child. So one of the things you might see with input and outputs is we might not be given the exact number. We might have to think through what number we should use. So here, in order to write my function notation, I know I need the age of the child in months. So I need to look at 2 years and think about how many months that is. The key to doing that is knowing that 1 year is 12 months. So if we were to multiply 2 years by 12, we figure out that 2 years is going to be 24 months. And so the correct function notation would be a 2-year-old child is 24 months old, and so we would say our age in months is 24. H of 24 equals 33. So keeping that in mind, go ahead and try that last problem. One final time, pause the video, try, and then come back to see how you did. So for this final part, we have the information. It's 5-year-old child, and they are 3 feet tall. Similar to this one we just did, 5-year-old child. I know my input is in months, so I need to calculate how many months old that child is. The same way we had done here, you can use multiplication. If you multiply 5 years by 12, that gives you that child is 60 months old. And so the first part, my input is going to be 60 for 60 months. Now, did you write equals 3? If you did, remember our output is their height in inches. And so this would mean our 5-year-old child, our 60-month-old child, is 3 inches tall. And that is not right. So just like with the years, this is another reason why this is a little more complex. I need to take 3 feet and figure out how many inches that is. Now, funny enough, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So again, we are going to be multiplying by 12. If I want to know how many inches 3 feet are, I multiply 12 by 3, and we get it is 36 inches. So I know my 5-year-old child is 60 months, and my 3-foot child is going to be 36 inches. So our function notation would be h of 60 equals 36. In today's lesson, we're going to look at situations similar to this where we might have to do a little calculating to help us find what number to use in our function notation. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you found this helpful.